You've entered Interstellar Chronicles. Close your eyes and drift into another world, a place where stars whisper forgotten names, where time folds and destinies collide across galaxies. Your journey begins now. I was sent to bargain with aliens. Falling for their Warleader wasn't the plan. The galaxy thrummed like a living beast, its stars pulsing in a cosmic symphony of light and shadow, each a heartbeat in the vast, indifferent void. The Nexus, a sprawling web of 1,000 worlds, was bound by the Kavran Dominion, a coalition of alien species forged in the crucible of conquest and discipline. Their civilization was a tapestry of raw power, where scales, exoskeletons, and bioluminescent hides marked the elite, and weakness was a sin carved into the bones of the unworthy. The Kavran revered strength, their history a saga of battles won and worlds tamed, their neural implants linking minds across stars, a hive of data and will. To them, humans were a fleeting curiosity, frail creatures from a backwater rock called Earth, their emotions a liability, their bodies a jest. The Kavran called them Vethare, soft sparks, fragile, fleeting, destined to flicker out against the Dominion's might. But one human, Elias Kane, was about to kindle a flame that would sear its mark across the stars. The orbital council chamber of the Dominion's trade summit hung, like a crystal cathedral above the dying star Zorith 9. Its translucent walls refracting light into cascades of crimson, gold, and violet. The air was thick with alien pheromones, the hum of translator drones weaving through a chorus of clicks, hisses, and low drones. Delegates from a dozen worlds filled the tiered seats, Silthar with their iridescent feathers that shimmered with mood, Korvax with molten metal skin that flared with heat, Clyron with their insectoid mandibles snapping into stain, and the serpentine Vilthar, their scales whispering secrets as they coiled in their seats. At the chamber's heart stood Elias Kane, a human envoy barely 30, his gray jumpsuit a stark contrast to the opulence. His dark hair was mussed from sleepless nights poring over star charts and Dominion protocols. His green eyes sharp but shadowed, carrying the weight of Earth's fragile colonies. Those outposts, scrappy settlements on Mars, Europa, and Titan needed this trade deal for access to Dominion routes and resources, or they'd wither within a decade. Elias was here to plead for survival, and every alien in the room knew he was begging for scraps. Yet the chamber's gaze was fixed not on him, but on her. Commander Vera Zara, Warleader of the Kavran Syrith caste, strode in like a tempest breaking over a silent plain. Nearly 8 feet tall, her obsidian armor gleamed with nanites that rippled like liquid shadow, adapting to her every move. Her indigo skin bore silver tattoos that pulsed with her heartbeat, each line a chronicle of battles won, a map of her warrior lineage etched by Kavran artisans over decades. Her violet eyes glowed faintly, sharp with intelligence and disdain, and her segmented tail, a sleek whip-like appendage, flicked with barely restrained impatience. To the Kavran, she was a legend, a blade forged in 100 campaigns, her name whispered in awe across the Nexus. To Elias, she was a mountain he had to climb without a rope, her presence a weight that pressed the air from his lungs. You speak of parity? Vera's voice sliced through the chamber like a plasma blade, sharp and unyielding. She loomed over Elias, her tail lashing once, a gesture that silenced the room. Your kind clings to a single system, scratching dirt for survival. The Dominion spans nebulae. Our fleets carve paths through the void. What could your Earth possibly offer us? Elias's heart pounded, sweat prickling his neck, but he squared his shoulders, meeting her gaze. Resources, he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. Isotopes from our asteroid belts, rare enough to power your dreadnoughts. Medical nanites refined through centuries of human trial and error. Our bodies may be soft, but we've learned to mend them better than most. And something you can't measure, adaptability. You'd be surprised what we soft sparks can do when the universe pushes back. A ripple of amusement swept the chamber. Silthar feathers ruffling like a storm, Gorvac skin flaring with heat, Clyron mandibles snapping in mockery, Vilthar scales whispering like dry leaves. A Silthar delegate, Quilon, trilled, their voice high and mocking, The soft spark has teeth. A Gorvax, Theric, rumbled, their voice like molten rock. Let him bark. It changes nothing. A Bilther, Syra, hissed softly, their coils tightening. He smells of desperation. Vera's lips curled into a smirk, revealing sharp canines that gleamed like polished obsidian. Adaptability? She said, her tone dripping with condescension. You'd crumple under half the gravity of my homeworld, human. Your emotions cloud your reason, make you erratic. You are amusing at best. Elias held her stare, a quiet fire kindling in his chest. Amusing enough to stand here, Commander, he said, his voice low but firm. That's more than most manage in front of you. The chamber erupted in laughter, a cacophony of alien sounds that echoed off the crystalline walls. But Vera's smirk faltered, just for a heartbeat. Something in his defiance, the way he stood his ground, small and unarmored yet unbowed, caught her off guard. She tilted her head, her violet eyes narrowing as if seeing him for the first time, a puzzle she hadn't expected to find. The negotiations stretched into a grueling marathon, days bleeding into nights under the summit's artificial light. Elias presented Earth's case with a blend of data and passion, detailing the isotope's mind from Jupiter's belts, their purity unmatched in Dominion space. He spoke of human resilience, of colonies on Mars and Europa that thrived despite hostile worlds, their people forging homes from ice and dust. He recounted a tale from Titan, where a lone engineer, Marvel, improvised a reactor patch during a meltdown, her name now a hymn in the Dome cities. The story drew a rare nod from Theric, whose molten skin cooled slightly. Your people are reckless, Theric rumbled, but persistent, a spark that refuses to die. Elias leaned into the narrative, his voice fervent, weaving history and hope. On Europa, we drill through kilometers of ice for water, knowing one crack could drown us. On Mars, we rebuild after dust storms bury entire outposts. On Titan, we sing Maravel's name to keep going, because her story reminds us we can outweed the void. Our colonies aren't just surviving, they're thriving because we don't give up. Our isotopes can fuel your ships. Our nanites can heal your warriors. But more than that, we offer partnership. A chance to learn from a species that stared into the abyss and laughed. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room, lingering on Vera. We humans have a saying, the stars don't care. They don't care if we live or die, if we're strong or weak. But we care. We fight for every breath, every inch, every hope. That's what we bring. Heart, grit, and a stubborn refusal to fade. The delegates listened, their attention wavering but stirred. Clyran delegate ZYK Tar clicked their mandibles, interrupting with a sneer. Your stories are quaint, human, but irrelevant. The Dominion does not trade with children who play in the dirt. Elias's jaw tightened, but he pressed on, his voice gaining an edge. Call us children, but we've outlasted empires that thought us weak. Our medical nanites could cut your recovery times by half. Our isotopes could double your fleet's range. Dismiss us, and you miss what we've learned surviving the unsurvivable. A low hum of intrigue passed through the delegates, a few silver feathers shifting to a softer hue, a sign of curiosity. Syra, the Vilther, uncoiled slightly, their scales whispering, bold, but unproven. Vera, tasked with security, watched from the sidelines, her tail flickering as Elias countered another objection with a quick-witted analogy about Earth's history of overcoming odds. Your empires are built on strength, he said, addressing the room but glancing at Vera. Ours is built on surviving what should have killed us. That's a strength you don't understand. Yet, Vera's expression remained unreadable, her tattoos pulsing steadily, but her tail stilled for a moment, a sign Elias was beginning to recognize as interest. She stepped forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. Bold words, human. Your kindling sparks ambition, but prove this fire, or your world fades. Elias met her challenge with a nod, his jaw tight with resolve. Give me the chance, and I'll show you. The negotiations paused for a recess, and Elias retreated to a dimly lit corridor, his hands trembling as he leaned against the wall, the weight of Earth's future a crushing burden. His mind flashed to Europa, where his sister Lila worked as a hydro-engineer, her letters brimming with hope for a better future, her sketches of her children playing under the domes a talisman he carried in his heart. He whispered her name, a quiet vow to keep fighting. A silver diplomat, Lyrian, approached, their feathers a calm lavender, their eyes soft with an alien empathy. "You speak well, human," they said, their voice melodic, a soothing contrast to the chamber's tension. "But Vera is Zyrith. Her caste does not bend. She tests you and she does not fail." Elias managed a tired smile, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thanks for the heads up, Lyrian. I'm used to long odds." Lyrian's feathers flickered with amusement, shifting to a warm gold. "You are strange, soft spark. Most would flee her gaze, yet you meet it. Why?" Elias chuckled, the truth spilling out raw and unfiltered. "Because I have to. For Earth. For my sister on Europa, betting on me to secure trade routes so her kids don't grow up rationing air. For the domes that leak every winter, patched by people who deserve better. For the miners on Titan who sing Maravel's name to keep going. For the dream of a future where we're not just surviving, but living. And maybe a little to prove I'm not just a spark." Lyrian tilted their head, their feathers glowing faintly. "Your kindling catches fire, Elias Kane. Be cautious or it will consume you, and her." Before Elias could reply, the station lurched violently, the floor buckling beneath them. Alarms screamed, their discordant wails drowning out the ambient hum of the station. The crystalline walls flickered as emergency lights bathed the corridor in red, casting jagged shadows that danced like specters. A voice crackled over the comms, urgent and clipped. "Scaran incursion detected. All personnel, prepare for lockdown." The Scaran, exiled insectoids who'd once been Dominion allies, were a nightmare of claws and mandibles. Their biotech weapons a venomous match for even cover and might. Banished after a failed coup a century prior, their hatred for the Dominion had festered into a crusade, their fleets a swarm of vengeance. Their attack was sudden, a surgical strike timed to exploit the summit's chaos. Corridors filled with acrid smoke and the screech of torn metal as the station's outer defenses faltered. Elias, no soldier, found himself sprinting through the madness, a pulse pistol stolen from a fallen Coveren guard heavy in his hands. Its grip was alien, too large for his fingers, its weight dragging at his arm, but he clutched it, his breath hitching, his mind focused on one goal: survive long enough to matter. He rounded a corner and collided with Vera, who was barking orders into a comm device, her armor scorched and a gash on her arm leaking violet blood that steamed in the cold air. Her tail lashed, and she glared at him, her voice a snarl. "Why are you still here, human? Flee to your shuttle, or you'll be torn apart." "I'm not running," Elias snapped, his resolve surprising even himself, a fire kindled by desperation and defiance. "If the Scaran take this station, Earth's colonies lose everything. I'm not as fragile as you think, Commander." Vera's eyes narrowed, her tattoos pulsing faster, a faint silver glow beneath her indigo skin. "You'll die here," she said, but a flicker of curiosity softened her tone, as if she were testing the steel in his spine. Before he could respond, a Scaran drone skittered toward them, its carapace glinting like spilled oil, mandibles snapping with hunger. Vera moved like lightning, her twin blades, curved and glowing with plasma, flashing as she cleaved the creature in two. Violet ichor sprayed the floor, kissing as it burned through metal. But more drones were coming, their chittering echoing down the corridor like a swarm of locusts. Elias's eyes darted to a sparking control panel on the wall, its interface glowing faintly through the smoke. Years of tinkering with Earth's outdated tech, patching colony reactors, rewiring comms under fire, kicked in. "Cover me," he shouted, diving for the panel. Vera hesitated, her tail flicking, then planted herself between him and the drones, her blades a blur of deadly grace. Elias's fingers flew, bypassing fried circuits, rerouting power to a bulkhead control. His hands shook, Sweat stung his eyes, but he worked with a focus born of desperation. With a groan, the bulkhead doors slammed shut, sealing the drones on the other side. Their claws scraped uselessly against the metal, their screeches muffled. Vera turned, panting, her violet eyes wide with something like disbelief. "How did you—" "Old human trick," Elias said, wiping sweat from his brow with a shaky grin, his heart still racing. "We're good at making do when the world's falling apart." For the first time, Vera's gaze held no scorn, only a spark of respect, faint but undeniable. She nodded, a single sharp gesture, and motioned him to follow. "Stay close, Elias. You may yet be useful." The station became a battlefield, its polished corridors transformed into a labyrinth of fire and ruin. The survivors, a ragtag mix of Dominion soldiers, stranded diplomats, and a handful of technicians, holed up in a fortified command center, its walls reinforced with kinetic dampeners that hummed under the strain of Scaran assaults. Vera took charge, her voice a beacon of authority as she coordinated defenses, her neural implants linking her to her warrior's hive network, a web of shared tactics and data that pulsed like a second heartbeat. Elias, out of place among the towering Kovren, found himself at her side, his quick thinking patching gaps in their strategy. The Kovren relied on their implants for split-second tactics, their minds processing data faster than thought. Humans had no such tech, but Elias had intuition, a knack for reading chaos like a star chart. During a tense strategy session, as Vera plotted a counterattack on a flickering hollow display, Elias spotted a pattern in the Scaran's movements, their feints and surges forming a rhythm he could almost hear. He grabbed her arm, ignoring the jolt of touching her armored skin, cool and smooth beneath his fingers. "They're baiting us," he said urgently. "The eastern vents, they're tunneling through, not hitting the main gates. Redirect your drones now, or we're done." Vera's eyes flashed, but she didn't pull away. "You're certain enough to bet my life on it," Elias said, holding her gaze, his voice steady despite the knot in his chest. She studied him for a heartbeat, her tattoos pulsing faintly, then nodded sharply, relaying the order through her implant. Moments later, the vents erupted with Scaran drones, their carapaces glinting as they poured forth, only to be met by a swarm of Kovren combat drones, their plasma bolts lighting the corridors like a thunderstorm. The flank held, and Vera's warriors cheered, their voices a mix of growls and trills, a primal hymn of defiance. A young Kovren lieutenant, Kale Tor, clapped Elias on the shoulder, his claws nearly bruising. "Not bad, soft spark," he rumbled, his own tattoos flickering with approval, though his eyes held a trace of resentment, a flicker of pride wounded by a human's competence. Vera said nothing, but her glance lingered on Elias, her tail still for once, a silent acknowledgement that carried more weight than words. The siege stretched into weeks, a relentless grind that tested body and spirit. The command center became a microcosm of survival, its air thick with the tang of ozone and the sour edge of fear. Supplies dwindled, and tempers frayed, the survivors' unity strained by the constant threat of death. Elias and Vera became an unlikely team, their differences forging a strange synergy. She was precision and power, her every move calculated like a blade's arc. He was improvisation, turning scraps of tech into lifelines, his mind a patchwork of human ingenuity. Together, they restored comms, rerouted power, and held the line against the Scaran's relentless assaults. But not all welcomed their partnership. Kale Tor's resentment grew, his pride chafing at Vera's reliance on a human. He was young, his tattoos still fresh, marking him as a warrior yet to earn Vera's renown, and Elias's presence was a wound to his ego. His own past, a failed campaign against the Scaran that cost his mentor's life, fueled his anger, a scar he hid beneath bravado. During a tense meeting, as Vera assigned Elias to oversee a critical power relay, Kale Tor's claws flexed, his tattoos flaring red, a sign of anger his implants couldn't suppress. "He is not one of us," he growled, his voice carrying the weight of old Kovren tradition. "Why do you trust a soft spark over your own kin, Commander?" Vera's tail lashed, her voice ice-cold, cutting through the room like a blade. Because he has proven himself, Kael'tor. Strength is not only in claws or implants, it is in will. Question him again, and you answer to me. Elias, standing nearby, felt his chest tighten. He hadn't sought her defense, but it warmed him, a flicker of light in the siege's darkness. Kael'tor's glare burned into him, promising trouble, and the lieutenant stalked off, his silence more dangerous than his words. Another voice of dissent emerged. Sirvara, a grizzled Kavran veteran whose armor bore the scars of decades of war. Her tattoos faded but intricate, a testament to her survival. She was respected, her counsel heeded even by Vera, but her trust in tradition ran deep. Her own history, leading a campaign that saved a Kavran colony but cost her kin, made her wary of outsiders. During a strategy session, she spoke up, her voice a low growl. The human's ingenuity is clever, but it is chaos. We are Xyrith, order is our strength. His presence disrupts our unity, Warleader. Vera's eyes narrowed, but she responded with measured calm. Chaos can be a weapon, Sirvara. Elias's mind sees what our implants miss. He stays. Sirvara's tattoos flickered, but she nodded, her respect for Vera overriding her doubts. For now, new figures entered the fray, each adding layers to the survivors' fragile alliance. Clyra, a Gorvax technician stranded in a lower deck during the initial attack, brought raw strength and bitter wisdom. Her molten skin flickered weakly from malnutrition, her massive frame hunched but unyielding. Clyra had survived by scavenging Scaran remains, her knowledge of the station's auxiliary systems a lifeline, but her distrust of the Kavren, rooted in a Dominion campaign that scorched her homeworld, created friction. She worked with Elias, her gruff demeanor softening as he shared rations and stories, his human empathy bridging the gap. "You're soft," she rumbled, her skin flaring briefly, "but you don't break." Clyra's presence stirred Sirvara's suspicions, who saw her as another outsider weakening their ranks. Vera mediated, her authority holding the group together, but the strain was palpable, the survivors' unity fraying like a worn cable. Vrikael, a Clyran defector who had fled the Scaran after sabotaging their biotech nest, brought a haunted expertise. Their insectoid nature and past allegiance made them a pariah, their mandibles clicking nervously under the survivors' wary gazes. Vrikael's betrayal of the Scaran had cost them their hive, a wound they carried in silence. Kael'tor, already volatile, nearly attacked Vrikael, his claws bared, his anger a mirror of his own shame. Elias intervened, his voice calm but firm. "We need them, Kael'tor. They're risking everything to help us." Vera backed Elias, her authority silencing Kael'tor, but Vrikael's presence deepened the survivors' divisions. Vrikael worked with Elias and Clyra, their insights into Scaran weaknesses proving critical, earning a grudging respect from Lyrian, whose feathers softened to a neutral gray. Seth, a rogue Kavran scout from a lesser caste, added complexity. Stranded in the station's outer rings, Seth had survived by scavenging and evading Scaran patrols. Their tattoos were sparse, marking their low status, but their knowledge of the station's hidden passages was a boon. Seth's loyalty was uncertain, their motives clouded by a desire to prove themselves to the Xyrith elite. Their past, a childhood spent in the shadow of Xyrith warriors, mocked for their caste, drove their ambition. They clashed with Kael'tor, whose pride scorned their caste, but Elias's fairness won Seth's cautious trust, their shared outsider status forging a fragile bond. Jixara, a Silther medic with feathers dulled by grief, brought a new perspective. Jixara had lost their flock in a Scaran raid years prior, their healing skills honed by necessity. Their empathy clashed with Kavran stoicism, but their ability to treat both Dominion and human physiology made them indispensable. Jixara bonded with Elias over shared stories of loss, their feathers brightening slightly when he spoke of Earth's resilience, but their distrust of Vera's martial focus created tension, a quiet challenge to her leadership. Zyrenek, a Vilthur data weaver, emerged as another key figure. Their scales, patterned with fractal glyphs, shimmered with encoded knowledge, their coils hiding a neural interface that rivaled Kovren implants. Zyranek had been analyzing Scarran signals before the attack, their insights into enemy communications vital but guarded. Their secretive nature, born of a Vilther culture that prized information as currency, clashed with Vera's demand for transparency, and their disdain for humans as primitive grated on Elias. Yet Zyranek's data proved critical, and Elias's persistence in decoding their cryptic reports earned a reluctant nod, their scales whispering faintly in approval. To break the siege's monotony and ease the growing tension, Elias shared fragments of Earth with Vera, small acts that became their lifeline. One night, in a rare moment of calm, he pulled a battered datapad from his pack and played an old ballad from his colony on Europa, its melody soft and wistful, carried by strings and a lone voice singing of lost homes and enduring hope. The notes filled the cramped maintenance bay, mingling with the hum of the station's failing systems. Vera listened, her tail swaying unconsciously, her eyes half closed, as if caught in a trance. "What is this sound?" she asked, her voice almost reverent, as if encountering something sacred. "Music," Elias said, his smile gentle, his own heart aching for the icy domes of Europa. "It's how we carry our stories, our feelings. This one's about home, about missing it, about holding on to hope when everything's gone." Vera's tattoos pulsed slowly, her gaze distant, as if peering into a world she'd never known. "The Kovren do not sing," she said, her voice low. "We record victories, etch them into our armor, our skin. Longing is not our way. It is a flaw, a crack in the blade." "Then you're missing out," Elias said, his voice soft but sure. "Longing's what keeps us fighting. It's what makes us human." She looked at him then, her violet eyes unguarded, and something shifted. A spark of connection that neither could ignore. She reached out, her clawed hand hovering near his, the air between them charged with unspoken possibility. Then she drew back, as if afraid of what it meant. "Your heart is loud," she said, almost to herself. "It speaks when you do not." Elias grinned, emboldened by her vulnerability. "Yours does too. You just hide it better." Her laugh, soft and fleeting, was a sound he'd carry forever, a melody sweeter than any ballad. The siege grew grimmer, the station's systems failing under the Scarran's relentless pressure. Supplies ran low, and the survivors rationed their dwindling food and water, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollow. A new threat emerged. A Scarran infiltrator, a bioengineered spy disguised as a Kovren soldier, sabotaged the station's oxygen recyclers, leaving the air thin and stale. Elias, working on a bypass with Clyra, Rikael, Seth, Jixara, and Zyranek, noticed a faint discrepancy in the system logs, a human's knack for spotting errors where algorithms failed. Zyranek's data confirmed the sabotage, their scales whispering as they shared a rare unencrypted file. Elias alerted Vera, and together they tracked the infiltrator to a ventilation shaft, a dark, claustrophobic maze of metal and shadow. The confrontation was brutal, the shaft's confines amplifying every sound. The screech of the infiltrator's claws, the hum of Vera's blades, the thud of Elias's pulse pistol. The infiltrator, its carapace shifting to mimic Kovren's scales, lunged at Vera, its claws grazing her side, drawing a line of violet blood. Elias, his heart in his throat, fired wildly, the pistol's recoil jarring his arm, distracting the creature long enough for Vera to drive her blade through its core. Clyra crushed another drone that skittered from the shadows, her molten fists glowing with heat. Seth, agile and silent, disabled a third drone with a precise strike to its neural core, their scout training proving its worth. Jixara, their feathers flashing white with fear, stabilized Vera's wound with a biosealant, their hands steady despite the chaos. Zyranek, their coils tightening, hacked the infiltrator's neural link, disabling its cloaking, their scales flaring with triumph. The infiltrator collapsed, its form dissolving into a puddle of biotech sludge, the air reeking of burnt circuits and decay. Vera clutched her side, her breath ragged, violet blood seeping through her fingers. Elias dropped to his knees beside her, his hands shaking as he assisted Jixara, pressing a med patch to her wound, the fabric hissing as it sealed her skin. "Stay with me, Vera," he said, his voice thick with fear, his hands slick with her blood. "You're too stubborn to go down like this." Her hand closed over his, her grip strong despite her pain, her claws grazing his skin without breaking it. "You worry for me," she said, her voice a mix of surprise and something softer, her tattoos pulsing erratically. "Why?" "Because you're not just a war leader," he said, his eyes locked on hers, his voice raw. "You're Vera, and I'm not losing you." Her tattoos flared, a bright silver that lit the dim shaft, and for a moment, she held his gaze, her breath steadying. "You are a full Elias," she said, but her tone was warm, almost tender, a crack in her warrior's armor. The incident deepened their bond, but it also fueled Kael'Tor's distrust. He confronted Elias later in a deserted corridor, his claws bared, his tattoos a angry red. "You endanger her," he hissed, his voice low and venomous. "Your weakness makes her reckless, human." Elias stood his ground, his pulse pistol at his side, his voice calm but firm. "I'm not here to prove myself to you, Kael'Tor. I'm here to keep us all alive, including her." Vera overheard, her tail lashing as she stepped between them, her presence a storm of authority. "Enough," she snapped, her voice like a whip. "Kael'Tor, your pride blinds you. Elias has saved us more than once. Learn from him or stay silent." Kael'Tor's tattoos darkened, his claws flexing, but he backed down, his resentment a smoldering ember. Elias watched him go, a knot of unease in his gut, knowing the lieutenant's anger was far from spent. The siege wasn't just a test of survival, it was a crucible for trust and change. Elias began to notice the Kavaran culture more closely, their rigid hierarchy and emotional restraint a stark contrast to human unpredictability. He learned their tattoos weren't just decoration but a biotech record, each pulse tied to their neural implants, broadcasting status and emotion to those trained to read it. Vera's glowed brightest in battle, a beacon of her strength, but he noticed subtler flares when they spoke alone, a sign her guarded heart was stirring. He asked her about it once, during a quiet moment repairing a sensor array, their hands brushing as they worked. "Your tattoos," he said, his voice curious. "They change when you're feeling something. What do they mean?" Vera's tail flicked, her eyes narrowing, but she didn't pull away. "They are our truth," she said, her voice low. "Our implants record our victories, our pain, our hearts. To hide them is to lie, but to show them is to be vulnerable." Elias nodded, his gaze soft. "Then yours are saying something loud right now." Her tattoos pulsed, a faint silver glow, and she looked away, her tail curling slightly. "You see too much soft spark," she murmured. But there was no anger in her voice, only a quiet wonder. He learned more of her past, pieced together from fragments she shared in quiet moments. Vera had risen from a minor Zyrith clan, her tattoos earned through trials that broke most. Battles against rogue AIs, campaigns in nebulous storms, a duel that left her mentor dead but her legend born. Her strength was her shield, but her heart, buried deep, yearned for something the Kavaran rarely named: connection. One evening, as they repaired a damaged comm array in a cramped maintenance bay, Elias shared more of Earth's quirks to ease the tension. He described the chaos of human festivals, the way crowds would dance under open skies, fueled by nothing but joy and fleeting connection. He told her of a festival on Mars, where colonists lit lanterns that floated above the red dunes, each carrying a wish for the future. Vera listened, her tail curling thoughtfully, her claws pausing over a wire. "Your people celebrate without purpose?" she asked, her voice puzzled, as if joy were a foreign language. "Sometimes," Elias said, grinning, his hands smeared with grease. "Sometimes joy is the purpose. You should try it sometime." Her eyes softened, and she leaned closer, her voice low, almost a whisper. "Perhaps I would with you." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning, and Elias felt his heart skip, the air thick with the weight of their closeness. Vera's tattoos glowed softly, her tail stilling, and for a moment, the siege seemed a distant thing. Their world narrowed to the space between them. But the siege grew darker, its claws sinking deeper into the station's heart. A Scaran sabotage cut the water recyclers, forcing strict rationing that left the survivors parched. Their lips cracked, their tempers raw, tensions flared, and Kael'Tor's descent spread like a virus. Sirvara, emboldened by the hardship, confronted Vera openly in the command center, her voice a growl that silenced the room's murmurs. "You risk us all for this human," she said, her claws clicking against her armor. "He is not Zyrith. He is not Dominion. His presence is a flaw in our blade." Elias, standing nearby, felt the words like a blow, his hands clenching at his sides. Vera's tail lashed, her violet eyes blazing, and she stepped forward, her voice like steel. "You see a flaw, Sirvara, because your eyes are old and blind. Elias has proven himself where your strategies failed. His mind is a weapon, his will unbroken. Question him and you question me. Stand your ground, or face me in the arena." The room went still, the threat of a Zyrith duel, a ritual of honor hanging heavy. Sirvara's tattoos flickered, but she backed down, her claws retracting, her gaze cold but compliant. "As you command, Warleader," she muttered, but her eyes lingered on Elias, a promise of retribution. The rift among the survivors grew, a shadow over their fragile unity. Elias felt its weight, a gnawing doubt that his presence was a curse as much as a boon. He confided in Lyrian, the Silthar diplomat, during a quiet moment repairing a hollow panel. "Maybe they're right," he said, his voice low, his hands steady on the wires. "Maybe I'm making things worse." Lyrian's feathers shifted to a soft violet, a hue of empathy. "You doubt because you care," they said, their voice a soothing hum. "Vera trusts you because you act, not because you dream. The Kavren fear what they do not know. Show them your truth, Elias, as you show it to her." Elias nodded, a spark of determination rekindled. "Thanks, Lyrian. I'll keep fighting." Jixara, overhearing, approached, their feathers dulled but steady. "Your heart carries scars, human, yet you fight. Why?" Elias sighed, his voice raw. "For my sister, for her kids, for every colonist betting on me to bring them a future, for the memory of my parents, lost in a dome collapse on Mars, for Vera because she believes in me, even when I don't." Jixara's feathers flickered, a faint glow of respect. "You are strange, but your scars give you strength." Zyranek, nearby, hissed softly, their scales whispering. "Your sentiment is wasteful, human, yet it binds you to her." Curious. A new crisis emerged when a rogue Kavren faction, led by a disgraced warrior named Zorith Kyn, attempted to seize control of the command center, believing Vera's leadership had faltered. Zorith Kyn, his tattoos blackened by shame from a failed campaign that cost thousands of lives, rallied a small group of dissenters, including a few of Sirvar's followers, exploiting the survivors' fear and hunger. The coup attempt was swift, a clash of claws and plasma in the command center's heart. Elias, unarmed, used his knowledge of the station systems to lock down critical controls, preventing Zorith Kyn from gaining full access. Seth, leveraging their knowledge of hidden passages, guided Vera's loyalists to flank the rebels, turning the tide. Jixara, risking their own safety, treated the wounded on both sides, their neutrality a quiet defiance. Zyranek, their scales flaring, hacked the rebels' comms, sowing confusion, their coils tightening with focus. Vera, her blades flashing, subdued Zorith Kyn in a brutal duel, her authority reaffirmed. But the incident left scars, both physical and emotional, deepening the survivors' mistrust. Vera, shaken by the betrayal, confided in Elias later, her voice low, her tattoos dim. "I was trained to lead, to fight, but not to mend hearts. My people fracture and I falter." Elias took her hand, his touch steady, his voice soft but sure. "You're not faltering. You're holding us together. And you're not alone. I'm here, Vera." Her tattoos flared briefly, and she squeezed his hand, a silent vow that grounded them both. To counter the unrest and regain momentum, Vera and Elias devised a risky expedition to retake the station's engineering deck, where the Scaran had established a stronghold, their drones weaving a biotech nest that pulsed with malevolent energy. The plan required splitting their forces. Elias would lead a small team of technicians to hack the deck systems, disabling the Scaran's defenses, while Vera's warriors drew the enemy's fire in a frontal assault. Kale Tor volunteered, his squad eager to prove themselves, but Elias sensed his motives were tangled, his loyalty to Vera warring with his resentment toward Elias. Seth, eager to earn their place, scouted the routes, their knowledge of the station's underbelly critical. Jixara insisted on joining, their medical skills vital for the wounded. Zyranek reluctantly provided signal intercepts, their scales whispering as they shared data. The mission was a gauntlet of fire and steel, a desperate plunge into the station's bowels. Elias, armed with his pulse pistol and a makeshift EMP grenade, led his team through maintenance tunnels, their walls slick with Scaran ichor, the air heavy with the stench of decay. The drones were relentless, their claws tearing through metal, their screeches a maddening chorus. Elias's team, a mix of Kovaran technicians, Theric the Gorvax, Clyra, Vrikael, Seth, Jixara, Zyranek, and Lyrian, whose feathers were dulled by stress but steady, fought to reach the control hub, a glowing nexus of Scaran biotech. A drone lunged at Lyrian, its claws grazing their feathers, but Elias fired, his pistol's bolt searing through its carapace. Lyrian gasped, their feathers flashing white. "You're quick, human. Just trying to keep up," Elias said, his grin strained but real. They reached the hub, and Elias's hands moved with practiced speed, hacking into the system's interface, bypassing layers of Scaran code. His fingers ached, his mind raced, but he diverted power, weakening the Scaran's nest. Clyra's knowledge of auxiliary systems kept the hub stable, her molten fists ready to crush any drone that broke through. Vrikael's insights into Scaran biotech disrupted the nest's neural links, slowing the drone's coordination. Seth, darting through the shadows, disabled a secondary Scaran relay, their agility a quiet triumph. Jixara, their feathers steady, treated a wounded technician, their biosealants saving a life mid-battle. Zyranek, their coils loosening, decoded a Scaran counterhack, their scales flaring with focus. But Kale Tor's squad faltered, his aggression leading them into a Scaran ambush, their comms crackling with shouts and the screech of claws. Elias, hearing the chaos, made a split-second choice. "We're going in," he said, leading his team to reinforce Kale Tor's. The corridor was a slaughterhouse, Kovaran blood mingling with Scaran ichor. Elias used his EMP grenade, its pulse frying a wave of drones, giving Kale Tor's squad a chance to regroup. Kale Tor, his armor streaked with blood, stared at Elias, his tattoos flickering with shame and respect. "You saved us," he muttered, his voice raw. "Don't mention it," Elias said, clapping his shoulder, his own breath heaving. "We're in this together." Vera, leading the frontal assault, saw the tide turn through her comms and roared her approval, her blades carving a path through the last drones. The Scaran's nest collapsed, its energy fading, and the deck was theirs. But the cost was steep. Half the team wounded, the station systems pushed to the brink. Theric, his arm molten and cracked, rumbled his thanks to Elias, his voice like a forge's bellows. "You're small, human, but you burn bright." Back in the command center, Vera pulled Elias aside, her eyes fierce but soft. "You risked everything for Kale Tor, despite his hatred." "Why?" Elias shrugged, his smile tired but genuine. "Because that's what humans do. We don't give up on each other, even when it's messy." Her tattoos pulsed, and she stepped closer, her tail brushing his leg, a deliberate touch that sent a shiver through him. "You are impossible," she said, her voice soft, almost awed. "And you're starting to like it," he teased, his heart racing at her proximity. Her laugh was a rare, warm sound, and for a moment, the siege faded, leaving only the two of them, their bond a fragile beacon in the dark. The station's woes deepened. A Scaran sabotage fried the environmental controls, plunging the station into a frigid cold that bit at exposed skin and sapped morale. The survivors huddled in the command center, their breaths visible, their eyes haunted. Elias, working with Clyra, Vrikael, Seth, Chixara, and Zyranek to restore heat, found a moment to share another Earth custom with Vera. He described a winter ritual on Earth, where people gathered around fires, sharing stories to keep the cold at bay. "We tell ghost stories," he said, his voice low, a playful glint in his eye. "Scary tales to make us laugh, to remind us the dark's not so bad when you're not alone." Vera's tail curled, her eyes curious. "You fear the dark, yet you mock it?" "Exactly," Elias said, grinning. "It's how we take its power away." She leaned closer, her tattoos glowing faintly. "Then tell me a story, Elias. Show me your dark." He obliged, weaving a tale of a haunted colony ship, its corridors filled with whispers, its crew hunted by shadows. Vera listened, her tail still, her eyes wide, and when he finished with a dramatic flourish, she laughed. A deep, resonant sound that warmed the room more than any heater. "Your stories are strange," she said, "but they stir something in me." Clyra, overhearing, snorted, her skin flaring. "You humans and your tales. Keep fixing the heater, soft spark, or we'll all be ghosts." Vrikael clicked their mandibles, a rare sign of amusement. "Your stories, they make the dark less heavy." Seth, usually silent, spoke softly. "You're kind. You find light in strange places." Chixara's feathers flickered, a soft glow. "Your tales heal more than my sealants, human." Zyranek's scales whispered, their voice a hiss. "Sentiment, yet it binds you." Fascinating. The cold wasn't the only threat. A Scaran bioweapon infected the station's water supply, causing fever and hallucinations among the survivors. Elias, immune due to human physiology, worked with Vrikael to isolate the contaminant, their insectoid biology offering clues to its structure. Clyra, her heat stabilizing the lab equipment, assisted in synthesizing an antidote, while Seth scouted for uncontaminated reserves in the station's lower levels. Chixara, their medical expertise critical, treated the afflicted, their feathers dimming with exhaustion but never faltering. Zyranek, their scales flaring, decoded the bioweapon's transmission signal, revealing a Scaran plan to weaken the survivors before a final assault. The crisis tested their unity, as fear drove some Kavren to hoard supplies, but Vera's leadership, bolstered by Elias's calm pragmatism, held them together. A new subplot emerged with a captured Scaran drone, its neural core partially intact, offering a chance to decode enemy plans. Vrikael, haunted by their past allegiance, hesitated to interface with it, fearing it might rekindle their old loyalties. Elias, sensing their turmoil, shared a story of a human traitor who redeemed themselves by saving a colony, his voice steady with empathy. "You're not your past, Vrikael. You're what you choose now." Vrikael's mandibles stilled, and they interfaced with the drone, extracting data that revealed a Scaran fleet massing for a final assault. Their courage earned Jixara's respect, their feathers brightening, and even Kael'Tor's grudging nod, a step toward reconciliation. Zyranek, their scales whispering, cross-referenced the data, confirming the fleet's trajectory, their coils loosening with rare approval. Another subplot unfolded with a hidden archive discovered in the station's core, a relic of a pre-Dominion civilization that once rivaled the Kavren. The archive, guarded by automated defenses, held schematics for a weapon capable of disrupting Scaran biotech. Elias, Zyranek, and Seth ventured to retrieve it, navigating traps that tested their wits and trust. Zyranek's data weaving bypassed the archive's locks, their scales flaring with triumph, while Seth's knowledge of hidden passages avoided a lethal trap. Elias's human intuition solved a final puzzle, a sequence of glyphs that resonated with Earth's ancient myths, earning Zyranek's reluctant respect. "Your primitive mind sees patterns we miss," they hissed, their scales whispering. The archive's weapon, a sonic disruptor, became a key asset, but its activation required a rare crystal lost in the station's ruins. This led to a perilous mission where Kael'tor, seeking redemption, joined Elias and Vera, his tattoos steady but his eyes haunted. The ruins, a maze of collapsed corridors and Scarran nests, tested their resolve. Kael'tor saved Elias from a collapsing beam, his claws straining, a silent apology in his gaze. "You're not my kin," he muttered. "But you're not nothing." Elias nodded, his voice steady. "That's a start." The turning point came during a desperate stand. The Scarran breached the command center, their drones pouring through a shattered wall, their claws a glinting tide of death. Vera led the defense, her blades a whirlwind, her voice a defiant roar, but a collapsing beam pinned her, her armor sparking, her systems failing. Elias, across the chamber, saw her trapped and acted without thought. Unarmed, he sprinted through the chaos, grabbing a jagged pipe from the debris, his hands raw with desperation. He threw himself at a drone advancing on Vera, jamming the pipe into its mandibles, his body screaming as the creature's claws raked his back, blood soaking his shirt. He held on, twisting the pipe until the drone's circuits fried, its body collapsing in a shudder. He staggered to his knees, shouting as he shoved the beam off Vera, his hands bleeding, his vision swimming with pain. She rose to her feet, her violet eyes locked on him, her breath ragged. "You could have run," she whispered, her voice trembling with something deeper than gratitude. "Why did you risk your life?" Elias, gasping, met her gaze, his voice hoarse but steady. "Because you're worth it. Because I believe we're more than what you think we are." Vera's tattoos flared, a silver blaze that lit her face, her breath catching. The Kovren saw emotion as weakness, yet here was this human, bleeding and defiant, his heart bared without shame. She reached out, her clawed hand brushing his cheek, her touch so gentle it stole his breath. "You are no soft spark," she said, her voice trembling. "You are an ember, small, yet unyielding." The moment was broken by another drone wave, but Vera fought with a new fire, her blades carving a path to safety. Elias, patched up by Jixara, refused to rest, his wounds bandaged but his spirit unbroken, joining Vera to plan their final counterattack against the Scarran forces. The Scarran's final assault came like a tidal wave, their biotech fleet massing outside the station, a shadow blotting out the stars. Vera, Elias, Clyra, Vrikael, Seth, Jixara, and Zyranek devised a desperate plan. Overload the station's core to unleash an EMP, amplified by the archive's sonic disruptor, to cripple the Scarran systems. It was a suicide mission unless timed with perfect precision, and it required them to work in the core chamber exposed to radiation and enemy fire. As they prepared, Vera pulled Elias aside, her voice low and urgent, her hand gripping his. "If we survive this, Elias, I want to know you, your heart, your world. I want to understand what makes you burn so fiercely." Elias's hand brushed hers, his smile soft but sure, his eyes steady despite the fear clawing at him. "Then let's make sure we get that chance." The core chamber was a crucible of heat and chaos, its walls glowing with the strain of the reactor's overload, the air thick with the screech of metal and the hum of impending doom. Scarran drones breached the outer defenses, their claws scraping closer, their chittering a maddening wail. Vera and Elias worked in sync, her strength stabilizing the core's controls, his quick hands fine-tuning the EMP's pulse, with Clyra rerouting auxiliary power and Vrikael countering Scarran countermeasures. Seth, their agility unmatched, disabled a Scarran sabotage node, buying precious seconds. Jixara, their feathers steady, treated the wounded mid-battle, their biosealants a lifeline. Zyranek, their scales flaring, synchronized the sonic disruptor, their coils tightening with focus. Kael'tor, redeemed by Vera's faith, led a squad to hold the drones at bay, his roars echoing through the comms, a testament to his newfound loyalty. But the plan hit a snag. The core's failsafe triggered, locking the system, a final barrier to their desperate gamble. Elias, digging through its code with VKL and Zyronek's help, found a workaround, but it required a manual override at a secondary panel, across a corridor crawling with drones, a corridor of death. "I'll go," Elias said, grabbing his pulse pistol, its weight a grim anchor in his hand. Vera grabbed his arm, her eyes fierce, her claws digging into his sleeve. "You'll die. Then cover me," he said, his voice a steady vow. "Like I covered you." She hesitated, her tattoos blazing, then nodded, her tail curling around his wrist for a fleeting moment, a touch that grounded him. "Come back, Elias. I command it." He sprinted into the corridor, drones lunging from the shadows, their claws glinting like nightmares. Vera fought like a demon, her blades a blur, a storm of silver and violet, clearing a path through sheer will. Clyra, her skin flaring with heat, joined the fray, her massive fists crushing drones with molten force. VKAL, their mandibles snapping, disabled the drone's biotech core, their defection a final act of defiance. Seth, darting through the chaos, drew fire to protect Elias, their tattoos sparking with pride. Jixara, their feathers flashing, dragged a wounded Kovren to safety, their resolve unbroken. Zyronek, their coils loosening, hacked a drone swarm's command signal, buying Elias seconds. Elias reached the panel, his hands shaking as he rewired it. The drone screeches closing in, the air thick with the stench of ozone. A claw grazed his arm, blood soaking his jumpsuit. But Vera was there, her blade severing the drone's limb, her voice a roar. "Finish it, Elias." He slammed the override, the panel sparking, and the core surged to life, its hum a deafening crescendo. They ran back, sealing the chamber as the EMP and sonic disruptor detonated. A silent wave that swept through the station, a pulse that silenced the galaxy's noise. The Scarran fleet fell dark, their drones collapsing like puppets with cut strings, their menace reduced to lifeless husks. The station shook, its systems screaming, but it held, a battered monument to their defiance. The survivors cheered, their voices a rag at him, a chorus of life reclaiming the void. Vera and Elias stood amidst the wreckage, her hand gripping his, her tattoos glowing like stars, a beacon in the dark. Clyra, her skin cooling, nodded to Elias, a rare gesture of respect. VKL, their mandibles still, found a place among the survivors, their betrayal of the Scarran a new beginning. Seth, their tattoos brighter now, stood taller, their cast no longer a chain. Jixara, their feathers glowing softly, tended to the wounded, their empathy a bridge across species. Zyronek, their scales whispering, shared their data openly for the first time, their coils relaxed. Kale Tor, his armor scarred, bowed his head to Vera, his tattoo steady, a testament to loyalty earned. The Dominion hailed Vera and Elias as heroes, their names a rallying cry across the Nexus, a symbol of unity against the void. Months later, on a terraformed colony under Earth's moon, Vera walked beside Elias, the sky ablaze with stars, the air sweet with the scent of blooming alien flora. She'd shed her armor for a simple tunic, her movements freer now, her tattoos shimmering softly, a map of her heart shared with Elias. Clyra had stayed, her engineering reshaping the station's reactors into a foundation for the colony's growth, her gruff camaraderie a bridge between species. VKAL, a mediator now, worked to integrate Scarran defectors, their knowledge forging peace. Sith, now a scout leader, trained new recruits, their tattoos a quiet pride, their caste elevated by their deeds. Jixara, their feathers bright with hope, established a cross-species medical academy, their healing uniting worlds. Zyronek, their scales vibrant, became a cultural archivist, weaving the siege's data into a chronicle shared across the Nexus. Lyrian, their feathers vibrant, served as a cultural liaison, their songs of the siege a melody of unity that resonated across worlds. The Dominion, transformed by Elias's courage, had deepened its alliance with Earth. Trade ships carried isotopes and nanites to Kovren worlds, while Dominion engineers studied human tech, their implants humming with curiosity. New treaties fostered joint colonies where humans and Kavren learned from each other, their differences as strength. The archive's technology, shared freely, sparked a renaissance. Its disruptors adapted for peaceful uses. Terraforming, medicine, communication. Lila, Elias's sister, sent a hollow message, her face radiant as she described Europa's new hydrodomes, built with Dominion resources. Her children dancing under skies no longer rationed. She spoke of a school named for Elias, its walls etched with his story, a beacon for the next generation. Elias watched with Vera, her tail curling gently around his, her eyes soft with pride. They stood on a hill overlooking the colony, its lights a constellation of human defiance. Vera paused, her violet eyes meeting his, unguarded and free. "You showed me strength beyond the blade," she said, her voice a melody of conviction. "You taught me to hope, to love, to build a world not of conquest, but of connection. I am yours, Elias, as you are mine." Elias took her hand, his smile quiet but fierce. "And you showed me a warleader's heart can burn brighter than any star." She leaned closer, her tattoos blazing silver, and they kissed under the alien sky, a vow sealed by starlight. Their love was a bridge across worlds, a spark that kindled a flame no void could extinguish. Decades later, their story was a legend, woven into the fabric of the Nexus. On Europa, children sang hymns of Elias Kane, the soft spark who defied the stars. On Kavren worlds, warriors etched their names into their armor, a tribute to resilience and love. Silther songs carried their tale, a melody of unity that echoed through the void. Gorvak's forges glowed with alloys born of human isotopes, their heat a testament to partnership. Clyron mediators, inspired by VKL, brokered peace across systems, their voices a chorus of hope. Velther archives, guided by Zyrenek, shared knowledge freely, their scales a map of a new era. Elias and Vera, the ember and the storm, had birthed a legacy. Their children, twins, half human and half Kavren, blended their worlds, their tattoos a fusion of silver and indigo, their laughter a harmony of Earth and the Nexus. Their home, Tara, a dome on the lunar colony, was a sanctuary of music and memory, where human ballads mingled with Kavren chants, and stories of the siege were told to wide-eyed descendants. Clyra, now a colony elder, taught engineering with a gruff pride, her molten skin a beacon for young innovators. Vrikal's mediation efforts had forged a Skaran enclave, their mandibles a symbol of redemption. Seth led explorers to uncharted systems, their tattoos glowing with tales of new horizons. Jixar's academy trained healers who crossed stars, their feathers alight in the dark. Zyraka's archives preserved the Nexus's history, their scales a testament to wisdom shared. The Nexus, once a web of conquest, was now a tapestry of light, its peoples united by a vision of connection. Joint colonies thrived, their domes and hives a blend of human and alien dreams. The archive's technology had terraformed barren moons, its medicine healed ancient scars, its signals linked distant stars in a symphony. Lila's descendants, now leaders on Europa, sent hollow messages of thriving cities, their skies alive with lanterns, each a wish for peace. The Dominion and Earth, once strangers, were kin, their fleets a shared shield against the void. As Elias and Vera, now elders, stood on their hill, their hands entwined, they watched a new star flare in the sky, a colony ship, human and Kavren, bound for the galaxy's edge. "We did this," Elias whispered, his voice soft with wonder. "We built a future." Vera squeezed his hand, her tattoos glowing, her tail curling around him. "We did, Elias, and it will burn forever." Their legacy endured, a flame that lit the dark, a love that outlasted the stars, a testament to the stubborn, impossible heart of humanity and the unbreakable will of a war leader who dared to dream.